The boarding announcement echoes through Terminal 3 for the third time, and I'm still sitting here like an absolute fool, clutching 2 passports in my sweaty palms. Gate 23. Flight 847 to Paris. Our honeymoon flight that we booked 8 months ago when we were still pretending our relationship was perfect. Final boarding call for Flight 847 to Paris, departing from Gate 23. My wedding dress is hanging in our bedroom closet at home. Well, what used to be our home. 24 hours ago, I was walking down that aisle in white silk and promises, believing every word that came out of Ethan's mouth when he said, "I do." The reception was magical. Everyone said we looked perfect together. His best man even joked about how lucky Ethan was to land someone like me. If only they knew what I know now. I dial his number again. Straight to voicemail. Again. The automated voice feels like a slap in the face. "Hi, you've reached Ethan. I can't come to the phone right now, but leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible." Liar. 20 minutes ago I was excited. Nervous maybe, but excited. I kept checking my phone for his text saying he was stuck in traffic or that his Uber was late or some other perfectly reasonable explanation for why my brand new husband was nowhere to be found at our departure gate. I even bought him his favourite coffee from that overpriced airport cafe, thinking I'd surprise him when he finally showed up breathless with apologies. The coffee is cold now, just like the pit in my stomach. "Ma'am, this is the final boarding call. Are you travelling today?" The gate agent looks at me with a mixture of pity and impatience. She's probably seen this before. Abandoned passengers clutching tickets to destinations they'll never reach. "I'm waiting for my husband," I say, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "He should be here any minute." She glances at her computer screen, then back at me. "The flight is completely full, ma'am. If your husband doesn't board in the next 5 minutes, we'll have to close the door." 5 minutes. 5 minutes to save 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing in someone who clearly never believed in me. I look around the terminal, watching other couples board hand in hand, watching families say their goodbyes, watching solo travellers confidently stride toward their futures. Everyone seems to know exactly where they're going except me. I'm frozen in this moment, this horrible limbo between the life I thought I had and whatever nightmare is waiting for me when I accept the truth. My mind keeps racing back to yesterday's reception. Ethan's speech about how I was the love of his life, how he couldn't wait to start our new chapter together, the way he spun me around the dance floor while our friends cheered, the way he whispered in my ear that he was the luckiest man alive. Was any of it real? Or was he already planning his escape even as he was promising me forever? I remember now how distracted he seemed during the ceremony. I thought it was just nerves. After all, who isn't nervous on their wedding day? But when I replay it in my mind, I see the way his eyes kept darting to his phone during the reception, the way he stepped outside for that important work call right before we cut the cake, the way he seemed almost relieved when we finally said goodnight to our guests. God, I am such an idiot. That's when I see her. A woman in a red wool coat walking past with a little girl who can't be more than 5 years old. The child is chattering excitedly about something, her tiny hands animated as she talks. But it's not the conversation that makes my blood freeze in my veins, it's her face, those dimples, those exact same dimples that I've kissed 1,000 times on Ethan's cheeks. The same green eyes that I fell in love with 3 years ago, the same stubborn cowlick in her dark hair that Ethan always complained about when he looked in the mirror, even the way she tilts her head when she's thinking. It's like watching a miniature version of the man I just married. This little girl looks exactly like him. My hand starts shaking so violently that I nearly drop both passports. I watch, frozen, as the woman in the red coat kneels down to tie the girl's shoelace. The child says something that makes the woman laugh, and when she turns her head, I see her profile clearly for the first time. Sarah Mitchell, Ethan's college girlfriend, the one he dated for 2 years before we met, the one he claimed was just a friend when I found her number in his phone last year, the one he swore meant absolutely nothing to him anymore. But looking at them now, looking at how comfortable they are together, how natural their interactions seem, I realise this isn't the behaviour of exes who occasionally text. This is a family. A real family. "Mummy, when is Daddy coming home from his trip?" the little girl asks, her voice carrying over the airport noise with that crystal clarity that only children possess. "Trip? What trip?" "Soon, sweetheart," Sarah says, adjusting the child's backpack. "Daddy had some important business to take care of, but he'll be home tomorrow. And then we can finally tell everyone about our big news." "Big news?" My chest tightens even more. "What big news?" "Will Daddy really be home forever now?" the little girl asks, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "No more work trips? No more staying at that other house?" "Other house. Our house. The house where I've been living for 2 years, thinking I was building a life with the man I loved." But to this child, to his real family, it was just the place Daddy went for work. "Yes, baby," Sarah says, and I can hear the relief in her voice even from 20 feet away. Daddy is done with all that pretending. He chose us, remember? Like he promised he would. Pretending. The word hits me like a physical blow. 3 years of my life. 3 years of believing in us, planning our future, saving money for our wedding, compromising on 1,000 little things because I thought we were building something together. And to him, all of it was just pretending. Business. Yesterday was our wedding day. Today is supposed to be the first day of our honeymoon. What kind of business could possibly be more important than... Oh God. The realization hits me like a freight train. While I was walking down the aisle in my grandmother's pearls, while I was promising to love and honour him for the rest of my life, while I was cutting cake and dancing to our song in front of everyone we know, Ethan already had his exit strategy planned. He never intended to get on this plane with me. The wedding wasn't the beginning of our life together. It was his grand finale, his final performance before he disappeared back to his real life. A life that apparently includes a 5-year-old daughter and promises to stop pretending with me. I think about all the times I suggested we start trying for kids, and how Ethan always said we should wait until after the wedding, until we were more financially stable, until we travelled more. Now I understand why. He already had a child. He already had the family he wanted. I was just the side piece who didn't know she was a side piece. The gate agent's voice cuts through my spiral of horror. Final boarding call for flight 847 to Paris. Gate closing in 2 minutes. I watch Sarah and the little girl disappear around the corner toward baggage claim. Probably picking up Daddy from his business trip. The little girl is skipping now, so excited to see her father. I wonder if she even knows about me. Probably not. Why would she? I was just part of Daddy's work life, part of the pretending he's apparently done with now. My chest feels like someone is sitting on it, pressing all the air out of my lungs. Every breath is a struggle. The fluorescent airport lights seem too bright, the announcements too loud, the crowd of travellers too overwhelming. I feel like I'm drowning in plain sight while hundreds of people walk past, oblivious to the fact that my entire world just imploded. My phone buzzes with a text message, and for one insane second, hope flickers in my chest. Maybe it's Ethan. Maybe there's some explanation. Maybe it's from my sister. "How's Paris? Send pics. So happy for you both." I stare at the message until the words blur together. Happy for us both. If only she knew that there is no us anymore. There probably never was. Another text comes in. This one from my best friend. "Have the most amazing honeymoon. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Then another from my mum. Safe travels, sweetheart. Can't wait to hear all about your romantic getaway. Each message feels like another knife in my chest. All these people celebrating my happiness, my new marriage, my bright future, and none of them know that the bride is sitting alone in an airport while the groom is probably tucking his real daughter into bed. The gate door closes with a final definitive click. I sit there for another hour, watching planes take off through the floor-to-ceiling windows, trying to process what just happened. Other passengers come and go, rushing to catch their flights, reuniting with loved ones, living their normal lives while mine crumbles around me like a house of cards. A janitor eventually approaches me. He's an older man with kind eyes, and he sits down in the empty chair next to me. Miss, you okay? He asks gently. You've been sitting here a long time. I want to tell him everything. I want to explain that my husband abandoned me on our honeymoon, that our entire relationship was a lie, that I just watched his secret family collect him from the airport while I waited like a fool at the wrong gate. But instead, I just nod and whisper, I missed my flight. Where were you headed? Paris, I say, the word catching in my throat. My honeymoon. He looks at the 2 passports still clutched in my hands, and understanding dawns in his eyes. He doesn't ask where my husband is. He doesn't offer empty platitudes about how everything happens for a reason. He just says, I'm sorry, miss. That's real hard. For some reason, his simple kindness breaks something inside me, and I start crying for the first time since this nightmare began. Not the angry tears I expected, but deep soul-crushing sobs that come from somewhere I didn't even know existed. Finally, I force myself to stand up. My legs feel like jelly, but I manage to walk to the parking garage where I left my car this morning. This morning when I still believed in happy endings and forever promises. The drive home feels like a death march. Every red light gives me more time to think, more time to remember all the signs I ignored. The phone calls he took in the other room. The weekend work trips that seemed to happen more and more frequently. The way he avoided talking about our future beyond the wedding. The way he never wanted to meet my friends for dinner, but was always available when his college buddies were in town. College buddies. Probably code for visiting Sarah and their daughter. I should have known. Deep down, maybe I did know. But love makes you stupid, doesn't it? Love makes you believe in beautiful lies instead of ugly truths. Our house, my house now, I guess, looks exactly the same as when I left it 12 hours ago. The wedding gifts are still stacked on the dining room table, waiting to be opened when we got back from Paris. There's still rice in my hair from when the guests threw it as we left the reception. I walk upstairs to our bedroom, and that's when I see it. His closet is empty. Not just empty, completely cleaned out. Every shirt, every pair of shoes, every tie I ever bought him for Christmas or his birthday. Gone, like he never lived here at all. But it's worse than that. Looking closer, I realise he didn't just pack his things and leave. He planned this. The hangers are arranged neatly, not like someone packed in a hurry. His dresser drawers are empty but organised. Even his toiletries are gone from the bathroom. But he left the expensive face wash I bought him, the one he never used anyway. He cleaned out our life together like he was erasing evidence of a crime. My knees give out and I sit down hard on our bed. My bed, still wearing my airport outfit, still clutching those useless passports. That's when I noticed the envelope on his pillow. My name is written on it in his familiar handwriting. The same handwriting that signed our marriage certificate less than 48 hours ago. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely tear it open. Emma, I know you're reading this and wondering where I am. I know you're hurt and confused, and I'm sorry for that, I really am. But I couldn't go through with the lie anymore. Sarah and I never broke up. Not really. We have a daughter together, Lily. She's 5 years old, and she's been asking why Daddy doesn't live with her and Mummy like other daddies do. I tried to have both lives, tried to make everyone happy, but it wasn't fair to anyone. I do love you, Emma. I hope you believe that. But I love them more, and they need me more than you do. You're strong. You'll be fine without me. You always were independent, and that's one of the things I loved about you. The wedding was beautiful, by the way. You looked amazing. I meant everything I said in my vows, even if I couldn't keep the promises. I hope someday you'll understand that marrying you was the hardest thing I've ever done, because I knew it meant I'd have to hurt you eventually. I've cleared out the joint accounts to make sure Lily has what she needs for her future. The house is yours. It's in your name anyway. I hope someday you can forgive me and understand that this was the kindest way to end things. Don't try to contact me. It will only make this harder for everyone. Ethan. P.S. I left your grandmother's ring in the jewellery box. I know how much it means to you. I read the letter 3 times before it really sinks in. He's been living a double life for 5 years. 5 years. Our entire relationship was built on a foundation of lies so elaborate that I never even suspected. The joint accounts. I grab my laptop with trembling fingers and log into our bank account. The screen loads and my worst fears are confirmed. 0 balance. He took everything. The money I've been saving for 3 years for our future together. My inheritance from my grandmother that I'd been keeping in our joint account because I trusted him completely. The wedding gift money from our guests. Money they gave us to start our new life together. All of it gone to support his real family while I was just the convenient placeholder. But wait, there's more. I check our credit cards. Maxed out. When did that happen? I scroll through the statements and my blood runs cold. Charges I never made. Purchases I never approved. A down payment on an apartment I've never seen. Furniture, children's clothes, a ring. He didn't just empty our accounts. He used our credit to furnish his life with Sarah and Lily while I was planning our wedding, believing we were saving for our future together. I sit there on my bed, surrounded by wedding cards and empty hangers and the ruins of what I thought was my life. And I do something I haven't done since I was a child. I scream. I scream until my throat is raw, until my neighbours probably think someone is being murdered, until all the rage and humiliation and heartbreak comes pouring out of me like poison from a wound. Then I stop screaming and I start planning. Because Ethan made one crucial mistake in his little love letter. He said I'm strong, that I'll be fine without him. He said I was always independent. He's about to find out just how right he was about that. But first, I'm going to make sure he regrets every single lie he ever told me. The next morning, I wake up on the couch still wearing yesterday's clothes, my face swollen from crying, and my phone buzzing with messages I can't bear to read. But something has shifted inside me overnight. The devastating heartbreak is still there, but underneath it burns something much more dangerous. Pure, calculating rage. I make a list. Not a grocery list or a to-do list, but a revenge list. Every single thing Ethan took from me, every lie he told, every moment he made me feel like I wasn't enough while he was living his perfect little double life. I write it all down in my grandmother's leather journal, the one she gave me for my 16th birthday with the inscription, "For recording life's most important moments." Well, Grandma, this definitely qualifies. By noon, I've called a lawyer, not just any lawyer, the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city, the one who made headlines for absolutely destroying a cheating senator's finances last year. Margaret Chen doesn't come cheap, but she comes with a reputation for making unfaithful husbands rue the day they decided to mess with her clients. "Mrs. Harrison," she says when I walk into her office, still wearing the same clothes from yesterday because I can't seem to make myself care about appearances anymore. I've seen your bank statements. This is financial fraud, not just adultery. Can we get the money back? I ask, my voice hoarse from all the screaming and crying. Margaret's smile is sharp as a blade. Honey, by the time I'm done with him, he'll wish he'd never learned your name. The legal process is brutal but satisfying. Turns out, using joint credit cards to furnish your secret love nest while lying to your wife about your whereabouts is several kinds of illegal. Who knew? The apartment he put a down payment on with our money? Now it's tied up in court proceedings. The furniture he bought for his perfect little family? Repo men are very efficient when properly motivated. But the real victory comes when Margaret discovers something even Ethan didn't know about. That inheritance from my grandmother that he stole? It wasn't just money. It was part of a trust fund that makes his theft a felony. My sweet, sharp-minded grandmother had set up protections that even I didn't know about. Your grandmother was a smart woman, Margaret tells me 6 weeks after that horrible airport day. She put clauses in this trust that basically make it impossible for anyone to steal from you without facing serious jail time. Mr. Harrison is looking at 5 to 7 years if he doesn't cooperate fully with asset recovery. Ethan cooperates. Oh, how he cooperates. Not only does he return every penny he stole, but the interest, the penalties, and the emotional damages Margaret somehow manages to argue successfully in court. By the time the legal dust settles, I have more money than I started with, plus his half of the house, plus something far more valuable, the knowledge that I'm not nearly as helpless as he thought I was. But money and legal victories aren't enough, not even close. While the courts are sorting out my financial life, I throw myself into my career with the intensity of someone who has nothing left to lose. I work 16-hour days at the marketing firm where I'd been coasting along, taking on every challenging project, volunteering for the assignments no one else wants, learning skills I never bothered with before because I was too busy playing house with a man who was playing me. My boss notices. Jennifer Walsh, the ice-cold CEO who's built this company from nothing into a multi-million-dollar empire, calls me into her office 3 months after my world imploded. Emma, she says, studying me over her designer glasses, what happened to you? What do you mean? 3 months ago, you were competent but unremarkable. Now you're eating junior executives for breakfast and spitting out marketing campaigns that are making our competitors weep. What changed?
I could tell her about Ethan, about the wedding that turned into a funeral for my old life, about how discovering you've been living a lie for 3 years tends to clarify your priorities. Instead, I just smile and say, I got focused. Jennifer laughs, actually laughs, which I've never heard her do before. Focused. I like that. How would you like to focus on your own division? 6 months after my disaster honeymoon that never happened, I'm promoted to Vice President of Strategic Development. A year after that, I've poached 3 major clients from our biggest competitor and launched a subsidiary company that specializes in crisis management and reputation recovery, skills I learned the hard way. 18 months post-Ethan, I quit Jennifer's company to start my own firm. You sure about this? Jennifer asks when I hand in my resignation. You've got a great future here. I've got a better future out there, I tell her, and for the first time in my adult life, I mean it completely. Starting Storm & Associates is terrifying and exhilarating and the hardest thing I've ever done. I name it after what Ethan called me in one of his rare moments of honesty during our relationship. You're like a storm, Emma, beautiful and powerful and impossible to ignore. At the time, I thought it was romantic. Now I realize it was probably a warning to himself. The first year is brutal. I work 20-hour days, live on coffee and determination, and nearly go bankrupt twice. But slowly, client by client, contract by contract, I build something that's entirely mine. No joint accounts, no shared dreams, no compromises for someone else's comfort. My specialty becomes helping women who've been screwed over by men in business deals. Turns out my experience with financial betrayal translates beautifully into corporate law and contract negotiation. Who would have thought getting royally screwed by your husband could be such excellent career training? By year two, I've hired 5 employees and moved into a sleek downtown office with my name on the door. By year three, I'm being featured in business magazines as one of the city's rising power players under 35. The best part? I'm genuinely happy. Not the desperate, clingy happiness I had with Ethan, where every good moment was tinged with anxiety about losing it. This is solid, earned happiness that belongs entirely to me. I date occasionally, but nothing serious. Turns out, once you've been comprehensively lied to by someone you trusted completely, it takes a while to believe in people again. I go out with lawyers and entrepreneurs and artists, and they're all perfectly nice, but none of them make me want to risk my hard won peace. Until I meet David. David Chin, no relation to my lawyer, despite the name, walks into my office on a Thursday afternoon in March, 3 years almost to the day after Ethan destroyed my life. He's looking for help with a business partnership that's gone sour, and normally I'd pass a case like his to one of my associates. But there's something about him that makes me take the meeting personally. Maybe it's the way he listens when I explain our services, really listens, like every word matters. Maybe it's how he talks about his daughter, his face lighting up with pure, uncomplicated love. Or maybe it's just that he seems like the opposite of Ethan in every way that matters. Straightforward, honest, present in every conversation. My ex-wife died in a car accident 2 years ago. He tells me over coffee after we've resolved his legal issues. Emma, my daughter Emma, she's been having a hard time. I think she needs a mother figure, but I don't know how to find someone who wants to love a grieving 8-year-old as much as they love me. The fact that his daughter shares my name should feel like a weird coincidence, but instead it feels like fate. When he shows me her picture, a beautiful little girl with serious dark eyes and a shy smile, something clicks into place that I didn't even know was broken. Our first date is to a children's museum with Emma. She's quiet and watchful, clearly protective of her father, but by the end of the day, she's holding my hand and asking if I'll come to her school's art show next week. David and I take it slow, maybe slower than necessary, but after what I've been through, slow feels safe. He tells me about his late wife, Sarah. Yes, another Sarah, which makes me laugh at the cosmic joke of it all and how they've been trying to adopt internationally when she died. He shows me the paperwork they'd started, the home study reports, the dreams they'd had of giving Emma a sibling from somewhere in the world where children need families. Would you ever consider adoption? He asks me 6 months into our relationship when we're curled up on his couch after putting Emma to bed. I think I'd love it, I tell him, and I mean it. The woman who was desperate to have Ethan's biological children, who spent 3 years trying to convince him we were ready to start a family, has discovered something beautiful. Love doesn't require DNA. We get engaged on the 2-year anniversary of our first meeting. David proposes at that same children's museum where Emma first held my hand, with Emma's full approval and participation in the planning. She even helped pick out the ring. Not a massive diamond like the one Ethan gave me, but a vintage sapphire that belonged to David's grandmother. It's perfect, I tell them both, and for the first time since I can remember, I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. The adoption process for our second daughter begins immediately. We decide on an international adoption from Eastern Europe, partly because David and his first wife had already started the paperwork for that region, and partly because I love the idea of giving a home to a child who needs one. Emma, our Emma, as I've started thinking of her, is thrilled about becoming a big sister. She helps me set up the nursery, picks out clothes and toys, and practices reading bedtime stories for when her new sister arrives. What should we name her? David asks one evening as we're looking through adoption profiles. I like Elena, Emma says immediately. It means bright light in Spanish. Mrs. Rodriguez taught us that in school. Elena it is. The paperwork takes months, but finally we get the call. There's a 3-year-old girl in Romania who needs a family. Her name is already Elena, another cosmic coincidence that makes us all laugh. And her picture shows a tiny, serious face with the most beautiful dark eyes I've ever seen. She looks like she belongs with us, Emma whispers when we show her the photo. 3 weeks later, David and I are on a plane to Romania to bring our daughter home. As we're walking through the airport, the same airport where Ethan abandoned me 4 years ago, I catch a glimpse of myself in the terminal windows. I'm wearing a designer coat that costs more than Ethan's monthly salary at his old job. My engagement ring catches the light as I adjust Emma's travel documents. David's arm is around my waist, solid and reassuring, as we head toward our gate to collect the daughter who's waiting for us on the other side of the world. I look successful, happy, complete. Most importantly, I look like a woman who's never been broken. Because maybe that's the best revenge of all, not just surviving what someone did to you, but thriving so completely that you become unrecognizable to the person who tried to destroy you. As our boarding announcement echoes through the terminal, I smile and think about how far I've come from that broken woman clutching 2 passports to a honeymoon that never happened. This time, I'm going to make it onto the plane. This time, I'm flying toward my real life, not away from a lie. The plane touches down in Bucharest, and my heart is racing with anticipation. After 18 months of paperwork, home visits, and waiting, we're finally here to bring Elena home. David squeezes my hand as we walk through the airport, both of us giddy with nervous excitement. In 12 hours, we'll have our daughter, he whispers, and I can hear the wonder in his voice. The adoption agency meets us at our hotel the next morning. Elena is smaller than I expected, with enormous dark eyes that seem to hold too much sadness for a 3-year-old. She clings to her social worker's hand and studies David and me with the wariness of a child who's learned not to trust too easily. Hello, Elena, I say softly, in the Romanian I've been practicing for months. We're so happy to meet you. She doesn't respond, but when I pull out the photo book we made for her, pictures of our house, her new room, big sister Emma waiting at home, she reaches for it with tiny, careful fingers. The next 3 days are a whirlwind of legal appointments, medical checkups, and slowly gaining Elena's trust. By the third day, she's holding my hand during our walks around Bucharest, and she actually smiles when David makes funny faces at dinner. She's perfect, I tell him that night as we watch her sleep in the hotel crib, finally looking peaceful. I can't believe she's really ours. Almost ours, David corrects gently. 24 more hours of paperwork, and then we can take her home. The final legal appointment goes smoothly. Elena's adoption is officially finalized, and we're given her new passport with our last name, Chen, Elena Chen. It looks perfect on the official documents. As we're leaving the government building, Elena tugs on my coat and says her first English words. Mama home now? I nearly cry right there on the courthouse steps. Yes, sweetheart, Mama home now. The flight back to the States is long but wonderful. Elena falls asleep in my lap somewhere over the Atlantic, and David takes 1,000 pictures of us both. I feel like my heart might burst from happiness. This is what real love feels like, not the desperate, anxious attachment I had with Ethan, but this steady, sure knowledge that we belong together. We're walking through customs at JFK when I see him. At first, I think I'm imagining it. 4 years have passed, And I've worked so hard to put Ethan behind me that seeing him feels like a hallucination. But there he is, looking older and more tired, walking toward the international arrivals area with that same woman in the red coat and their daughter. Sarah and Lily, still together, still playing happy family while I'm living a genuinely happy life with my real family. The irony isn't lost on me. Elena is half asleep in my arms, and David is pushing our luggage cart, chatting excitedly about surprising big sister Emma when we get home. We're the picture of a perfect family returning from the trip of a lifetime, and I realize with a shock of satisfaction that I look exactly like what I am. Successful, loved, complete. Ethan spots me first. I watch the color drain from his face as recognition hits him. He stops walking so abruptly that Sarah bumps into him. "What's wrong?" I hear her ask, following his gaze to where we're standing. For a moment, we just stare at each other across the crowded terminal. 4 years of silence stretching between us. I can see him taking in every detail. My expensive clothes, my confident posture, the sleeping child in my arms, David's protective presence beside me. He starts walking toward us, and I can see that familiar, determined expression that used to make my heart flutter. Now it just makes me tired. "Emma," he says, when he's close enough that we don't have to shout. His voice is exactly the same, and hearing it sends an unwelcome jolt through my system. Wow, you look incredible." "Thank you," I say coolly, shifting Elena higher in my arms. She stirs slightly but doesn't wake up. David notices the tension immediately. "Everything okay, babe?" he asks, sliding his arm around my waist in a gesture that's both protective and possessive. "David, this is Ethan," I say, keeping my voice steady. "Ethan, this is my fiance David and our daughter Elena." The word fiance hits Ethan like a physical blow. I can see it in the way his shoulders tense, the way his jaw tightens. Good. I want him to know that I didn't just survive his betrayal. I thrived despite it. "Your daughter?" he asks, looking at Elena with obvious confusion. "But she's adopted," I finish calmly. "We just finalized the paperwork in Romania. We're bringing her home to her big sister." Sarah appears beside Ethan, holding Lily's hand. The little girl is older now, maybe 9, and she still has those devastating dimples that nearly destroyed me 4 years ago. But looking at her now, I feel nothing but mild curiosity. She's just a child who happens to share DNA with someone I used to know. "Is this her?" Sarah asks Ethan quietly, and I realize he's told her about me, the woman he left at the altar. I wonder what version of the story she got. Probably one where he was the victim of circumstances rather than the architect of elaborate lies. "Yes," Ethan says, his eyes never leaving my face. "Sarah, this is Emma." There's an awkward moment where Sarah clearly doesn't know whether to be polite or hostile. I decide to make it easy for everyone. "Well, this has been interesting," I say with a bright fake smile. "But we need to get Elena home. She's had a very long day." I start to walk away, and I can feel Ethan's desperation radiating behind me. "Emma, wait," he calls out. Can we talk just for a minute?" I turn back, and I can see David's confusion at this whole interaction. I owe him an explanation, but not here, not in front of Ethan and his family. "There's nothing to talk about," I say simply. "That was a different life." "Please," Ethan says, and there's something in his voice that I've never heard before. Regret, maybe, or desperation. "I need to tell you something about what happened. You deserve to know the truth." "The truth?" I laugh, and it's not a nice sound. "The truth is that you destroyed 3 years of my life because you were too cowardly to be honest. The truth is that you stole my money to furnish your love nest. The truth is that you left me alone in an airport on what should have been the happiest day of my life. I know all the truth I need to know." David's hand tightens on my waist. Babe, maybe we should go. He's right. This conversation serves no purpose except to satisfy Ethan's need for absolution, and I don't owe him that. But as I'm turning to leave, Elena wakes up and looks around with sleepy confusion. She's still adjusting to her new surroundings, still learning to trust us, and the crowded, noisy airport is probably overwhelming. Mama, she says in her tiny voice, looking up at me with those enormous dark eyes. It's okay, sweetheart, I tell her softly. We're almost home. That's when Lily speaks up, her voice curious and innocent. Mama, why does that little girl look just like me? The words hit like a bomb in the middle of our tense conversation. Everyone freezes. I look down at Elena, really look at her, and then back at Lily. The resemblance is undeniable, not just similar, nearly identical. The same dark hair, the same eye shape, the same delicate bone structure. They could be sisters. What did you say? I ask Lily, my voice barely above a whisper. She looks like me, Lily repeats, pointing at Elena. Like when I look in the mirror. My blood turns to ice in my veins. I look at David, who's staring at Elena with an expression I've never seen before. Not confusion anymore, but something that looks almost like recognition. David, I say slowly, where exactly did Elena come from? Which agency? His face goes pale. Emma, I think we should discuss this at home. No, I say, my voice getting stronger. We're going to discuss this right now. Which agency? Sunshine International, he admits quietly. They specialize in placing children from Eastern Europe with American families. I know that name. I know it because it was in Ethan's papers when we were married, tucked away in a file I only saw once when I was looking for our insurance documents. Papers about international adoption, about a child in Romania who needed placement. Papers I thought were related to some client at his old job. David, I say, and my voice is deadly calm now. How long have you known about Elena? He won't meet my eyes. Emma, please, not here. But Ethan is staring at Elena like he's seeing a ghost, and Sarah has gone white as a sheet. And I'm standing here holding a 3-year-old who apparently looks exactly like a man I used to be married to. Oh my God, I whisper, the pieces clicking into place with horrible clarity. David, how long have you known about Elena? Elena, who was already in the adoption system when we applied. Elena, whose paperwork moved through unusually quickly. Elena, who was the perfect age, the perfect fit for our family. Elena, who has Ethan's eyes and Lily's bone structure and my maiden name listed on her original birth certificate. The name I changed back to after my divorce. The name David would have seen on all my legal documents. Emma, David says desperately, I can explain everything, but I'm not listening to him anymore. I'm looking at Ethan, who's staring at Elena with dawning horror, and at Sarah, who looks like she's about to be sick. Whose daughter is she? I ask, and my voice cuts through the airport noise like a blade. No one answers, but they don't need to, because Elena isn't just any orphan from Romania. She's Ethan's daughter. And somehow, David has orchestrated the most elaborate revenge plot in history, or the most devastating betrayal I could ever imagine. Either way, my perfect new life just became another beautiful lie. Mama scared? Elena asks, looking up at me with those familiar eyes. No, sweetheart, I tell her, though my world is crumbling for the second time in 4 years. Mama's not scared. But I should be, because whatever game David's been playing, I have a terrible feeling I'm about to find out the rules. The silence stretches between us like a live wire, crackling with tension and unspoken truths. Elena shifts in my arms, sensing the change in atmosphere, while David looks like a man whose carefully constructed world is about to collapse. We need to go somewhere private, I say, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. All of us. 20 minutes later, we're sitting in a private conference room that David somehow arranged through his business connections. Connections I'm starting to realize I know nothing about. Elena is coloring quietly in my lap, oblivious to the fact that her very existence has just blown up everything I thought I knew about my life.
Start talking, I tell David, my eyes never leaving his face. And I mean everything. David takes a deep breath, and when he speaks, his voice is different. Colder, more calculated than the gentle, loving man I thought I was going to marry. My name isn't David Chen, he begins, and I feel the ground shift beneath me again. It's David Petrov. I'm Elena's uncle. The room spins. I grip Elena tighter and she looks up at me with concern. Mama, okay? Mama's fine, sweetheart, I whisper, though nothing could be further from the truth. Elena's mother was my sister Anya, David continues, his accent slightly different now, more pronounced. She died in a car accident 2 years ago, but not before she told me about the American man who got her pregnant and disappeared back to his wife. I look at Ethan, who's gone completely white. Sarah is staring at him like she's never seen him before. Ethan, Sarah says slowly, what is he talking about? But Ethan can't seem to find his voice. He's staring at Elena like she's a bomb that's about to explode. David's smile is sharp, predatory. Should I tell her, or will you? About your business trips to Romania, about the woman you met in a bar in Bucharest 3 years ago, about how you convinced her you were single and planning to move to Europe permanently. That's impossible, Sarah says, but her voice is shaking. Ethan, tell them that's impossible. I can't, Ethan whispers, and the devastation in his voice would have broken my heart 4 years ago. Now it just makes me angry. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. You're sorry? Sarah's voice rises to a near shriek. You have another child? Another family? How many more are there, Ethan? How many more lives have you destroyed with your lies? But I'm not listening to their drama anymore. I'm focused on David, on the man I trusted with my heart and my future, trying to understand the scope of his deception. So you found out about me, I say quietly. You found out about what Ethan did to me, and you decided to what? Get revenge. Use me to hurt him. At first, yes, David admits, and his honesty is somehow worse than if he'd lied. Anya died, thinking Elena's father would come for her someday. She died believing in a man who never even knew she was pregnant. When I found out about you, about how he'd abandoned you at the altar, I thought, poetic justice. My chest feels tight. So you researched me. You planned our meeting. You made me fall in love with you as part of some elaborate revenge scheme. That's how it started, he says. And for the first time since this nightmare began, his voice softens. But Emma, what happened between us? What we built together? That became real, I swear to you. That became real. Real? I laugh, and it's a harsh, bitter sound. Real? You orchestrated our entire relationship. You made me adopt your niece without telling me who she really was. What part of that is real? Elena looks up at me, startled by my tone. I force myself to calm down, to remember that whatever twisted game the adults are playing, she's innocent in all of this. You want to know what's real, David continues desperately. The fact that I fell in love with you, the fact that watching you with Elena, seeing how naturally you loved her, made me realize that revenge was stupid compared to the family we could be. Then, why didn't you tell me the truth? Because I was terrified you'd leave. His mask slips completely now, showing the desperation underneath. I was terrified you'd look at Elena and see him instead of seeing our daughter. I was terrified you'd never forgive me for how this started. I look down at Elena, this beautiful little girl who calls me Mama, and trusts me completely. The little girl who has her biological father's eyes and her uncle's manipulative streak running through her family tree. "Mama, sad?" Elena asks, reaching up to touch my face with her tiny fingers. "A little," I tell her honestly, "but not at you, sweetheart. Never at you." "David," I say, looking back at the man I thought I knew, "what was your endgame here? Let's say I never found out the truth. Were you planning to let me live my entire life not knowing that my adopted daughter was biologically connected to my ex-husband? I thought maybe someday when Elena was older, when we were more established as a family. You thought you could decide when I was ready for the truth about my own life? Emma, please. I know how this looks, but I love you. I love Elena. I want us to be a family." "Built on lies," I say flatly, just like my marriage to Ethan was built on lies. "It's not the same thing," David protests. "Isn't it?" I stand up, still holding Elena, and look around the room at all these people who have made decisions about my life without consulting me. Ethan lied to me about having another family. You lied to me about Elena's parentage. You both decided that I couldn't handle the truth, so you just manage me. Control the narrative. Protect me from information about my own life. The silence that follows is deafening. "Well," I say finally, "here's something neither of you considered. I'm not the same woman who got left at that airport 4 years ago. I'm not the woman who needs to be protected from hard truths or managed like a delicate flower. I'm the woman who built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. I'm the woman who survived Ethan's betrayal and came out stronger." I look directly at David. "And I'm the woman who's about to make some decisions that you're not going to like." "Emma, what are you saying?" I adjust Eleanor in my arms and walk toward the door. "I'm saying that I'm taking my daughter home. And I'm saying that if you ever want to see her again, you're going to start telling me the truth about everything. Not the version you think I can handle. Not the version that makes you look better. The actual truth." "Emma, wait!" Ethan calls out. What about my rights? She's my daughter too." I turn back to look at him. This man who once meant everything to me and now feels like a stranger. "Your rights?" I repeat softly. "You mean, like, the right you had to be honest with me during our 3-year relationship? The right you had to show up for our honeymoon? The right you had to not steal my money and disappear without explanation?" "That's different. I didn't know about Elena then." "You're right," I say, and my smile is sharp enough to cut glass. "You didn't know about her because you used a Romanian woman for sex and then abandoned her just like you abandoned me. The only difference is that I was strong enough to survive it, and she wasn't." "Emma," Sarah speaks up for the first time in several minutes, "I'm sorry about what Ethan did to you. All of it. But Lily is Elena's half-sister. Doesn't that matter?" I look at Lily, this little girl who shares DNA with the child in my arms, but has no idea how complicated her family tree just became. "You know what, Sarah? You're absolutely right. It does matter. Which is why I'm going to make sure Elena knows about her sister when she's old enough to understand. But that decision belongs to me and David, assuming he can prove he deserves to be a part of that conversation." I head for the door again, then pause. "Oh, and Ethan? If you try to claim parental rights to a child you abandoned before she was even born, you'll be hearing from my lawyers. The same lawyers who already know how to make your life very complicated when you steal from me." As I'm walking away, I hear David call out desperately, "Emma, I love you." I don't turn around, but I do answer. "You love the idea of me. You love the woman you thought you could manipulate into giving you the perfect family. But you don't love me because you never bothered to find out who I really am." "Who are you?" he asks, and there's genuine confusion in his voice. This time, I do turn around, Elena secure in my arms, and I smile with genuine warmth for the first time since this conversation started. I'm the woman who's going to raise your niece to be strong enough that no man will ever be able to lie to her the way you've lied to me. I'm the woman who's going to make sure she knows her worth and never settles for someone else's version of the truth. I look at each of them, Ethan with his hollow regret, Sarah with her shattered illusions, David with his desperate justifications. And here's the best part, I continue. I'm the woman who's wealthy enough and powerful enough and connected enough to make sure that Elena has the best life possible, regardless of what any of you decide to do next. Because unlike all of you, I actually put her first. As I walk away from them for the final time, Elena wraps her little arms around my neck and whispers, "Home, Mama." "Yes, sweetheart," I tell her, "we're going home." And for the first time in 4 years, I know exactly where that is. Not with David, despite the life we built together. Not in the shadow of what Ethan did to me. Home is wherever Elena and I are together, building a life based on truth instead of beautiful lies. The rest of them can sort out their tangled web of deceptions without me. I've got a daughter to raise and a company to run, and I've wasted enough time on men who think they know what's best for me. Time to show them what I'm really capable of when I stop playing by their rules and start writing my own.